Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. So glad that you're here for our weekly Double Take LinkedIn Live mini series. Hope you guys are having a great summer so far, and I hope that you're getting a lot from the half-hour tidbits that Mel and I are able to do every week with you. This is part of our summer leadership series, Double Take, and today we're talking about leading with empathy. So I'm Jennifer Slay, and I am with my business partner, Melissa Maloney, and
Hello, hello.
and we're here to give you just a little taste of how we help leaders build emotional intelligence and really show up with impact, right? Because we want to be impactful in what we do. So, as I mentioned, today we're talking about leading with empathy. Before you roll your eyes, okay, just don't think of empathy as being a pushover, okay? It's not being a pushover. So, empathy, it's not about being soft. It's about learning how to connect, right? How to understand and how to inspire people so that you're able to lead with confidence, especially in today's fast changing workplace environment, right? So empathy is often seen as a nice to have, do it in air quotes, a nice to have. But today we're going to explore how it's actually a must have skill, and it's a must-have skill for successful business leaders. Okay. So here's the best part. We're going to do all of this in just 30 minutes, and you will leave with insights. You'll leave with a little bit of brain science and a few simple tools that you can use to put into practice right away. All right. So does that sound good? Sound good? All right, so let's jump right in. If you have questions, please, please, please feel free to put them in the chat. I will make sure to respond to them after the 30 minutes, or Melissa will respond to them while she's in there. Okay? So let's just really break this down, what empathy actually is, right? It is our ability to sense, to understand, and to respond to other people's emotions. So notice that I did not say it's about fixing people's problems or taking their feelings on as their own. As a psychotherapist, I'm a licensed social worker, and I practice psychotherapy, and I see this all the time. People who are really sensitive to others so that they end up absorbing everything, right? And then what happens? They feel burnt out, they feel exhausted, and their motivation is really low. And so that's why it's really important that we protect ourselves from overfeeling while still being able to step into someone else's perspective with thoughtfulness, right? So there's a big misconception about empathy, because empathy does not mean agreement. We don't have to agree for you to be empathetic, right? You can understand someone without agreeing with them. So I'll give you an example. Years ago, during COVID, I was doing emergency telephone counseling with a woman who'd been in a car accident. So the insurance company hired social workers to kind of come in and speak with people virtually or over the telephone after they've been in an accident to try and get them back on the road, right? So she couldn't see me. She didn't know what I looked like. She didn't know anything. Okay. And so as she opened up, she said, "You know what? I'm not racist, but," and you know what comes on comes after someone says that, right? And she went on to tell me that she'd had three negative experiences with Black people. And she believed that Black people were aggressive, and she believed that Black people were easily violent. Okay. Now, in that moment, I could have shut down because obviously I am Black, right? I could have let her words really harden me. I could have let them really affect me, but I didn't. I stayed present with her because I understood where she was coming from, not because I agreed with her, but because that had been her experience. And so we ended up having a really great session. She felt heard, and she left the call saying how grateful she was for my support. Now, here's the kicker: I'm Black. right? And so that interaction gave her a completely different experience of a Black person, one that challenged her bias in a way that was safe and human. That is the power of empathy. It doesn't mean you approve, it doesn't mean that you agree. It means that you're willing to understand. And sometimes that understanding is what can really open the door to real change. Okay. Now, empathy isn't just a feel good concept, it's hardwired into your brain. The mirror neuron system activates when you observe someone else's emotions. So let's break that down. I am always going to give you something about brain science, you guys. Always going to give that to you. So the mirror neuron system. Now, when you see someone smile, when you see someone cry, or even stub their toe, there's a special network of cells in your brain called the mirror neuron system, and it lights up. And what these neurons do, they mirror what you're observing. So it allows you to feel a taste of what you're experiencing. That's why you'll flinch when you see someone bump their head, right? Or well, you see a surge of joy. You'll feel a surge of joy when you watch a baby giggle, right? In leadership, this system can really help you connect with others emotionally. It's the biological basis for empathy. Now, your prefrontal cortex, it helps to regulate emotional responses, which allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reactively. It's your leadership control center. Now, this area right behind your forehead, it's like the CEO of your brain. It's going to help you pause before reacting. It's going to help you to consider someone else's perspective. It helps you to regulate those strong emotions like frustration or anger. It can help you to plan thoughtful, appropriate responses. And so when leaders have that strong prefrontal cortex connection, they can manage their emotions under stress and stay engaged with others even during conflict. Deeper inside the brain is the amygdala. Now, the amygdala is your personal alarm system. We've all got one. And it constantly scans for danger and it activates your fight, flight, or freeze response when it senses a threat. Now, here's the kicker: the amygdala does not know the difference between when a tiger is chasing you or when an employee's tone in an email feels disrespectful, right? So what happens is it can hijack your brain, shutting off access to your prefrontal cortex. Now, when that happens, leaders can often snap at team members, right? Get kind of snappy. They can withdraw emotionally. They can make reactive decisions instead of thoughtful ones. And that's why emotional regulation is a critical skill for empathic leadership. So you can keep your prefrontal cortex online and your amygdala calm, right? But when your amygdala, that fear center, when it hijacks you in stressful moments, it can really shut down empathy, leading to short, cold, or reactive interactions. And this is why emotional regulation, can't say it enough. This is why emotional regulation is critical for empathic leadership, right? Now, here's another kicker: we will always feel before we have a chance to think. Okay. Now, there's a science behind this. There's a science behind why we feel before we think. When information from the outside world comes into our brain, whether it's through our sight or through our ears or other senses, it first passes through the limbic system, which is the emotional center of your brain, right? Now, there are two key players here. There's the amygdala, right? Your threat detector, that alarm system, and the thalamus, your brain's relay station. Okay. Now, the amygdala, it will quickly scan incoming information for signs of danger or emotional significance. And this happens before the information gets sent to the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, reasoning, and decision making. Okay. This process is faster because your brain prioritizes survival over analysis. If there's a threat, whether it's real or perceived, we are all designed to react emotionally first, right? That fight, flight, freeze. And that is to keep you safe. Okay. Now, the reason this matters is because emotional responses happen milliseconds before rational thought. This is why you might feel your heart race or your stomach drop before you can explain what's happening logically. Okay. Your emotions prepare your body to act quickly, right? The thinking part comes second. Now, what this means in for your leadership journey. So, as leaders, what happens is we have to understand that this process is huge. Okay. When a situation triggers strong emotions like frustration in a meeting, your brain may temporarily hijack your ability to think clearly. And that's why self awareness and emotional regulation are critical skills. They give your prefrontal cortex a chance to catch up and to re engage, right? Didn't think there was so much brain stuff going on in the background, right? Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about why empathy matters in leadership. Let's kind of bring this all together. Research from Harvard Business Review shows that empathic leaders foster innovation, boost engagement, and increased retention. And the reason is because teams will feel safe, they will feel understood, and they will feel valued when they have an empathic leader. So when people feel psychological safety, they speak up, they share ideas, and they take smart risks without fearing that they're going to be punished or embarrassed, right? So psychological safety is feeling like your voice matters, like you won't be shut down or judged for trying. What it is not is avoiding conflict or pretending that everything is fine, okay? Without empathy, fear drives silence and disengagement. So, can you think of a leader who made you feel truly heard? Just think for a moment of a leader in your current situation or in your past who made you feel truly heard. And how did that impact or affect your performance? Mm. Just throw it in the chat or think about it for a moment. But a leader who made you feel truly heard and how feeling heard impacted or affected your performance. Can't stress enough how empathy is a strength and not a weakness. And here's where many leaders get it wrong. They think that empathy is going to make them soft. But empathy is actually a leadership strength when balanced with accountability. So let's let me give you an example. Imagine a manager who notices an employee's performance is slipping. Now, instead of immediately reprimanding them, she chooses to sit them down and ask, "Hey, what's going on for you? How can I support you to get you back on track?" Now, at first, some team members, they might see this leader as being too soft or not tough enough. But what's really happening, what this leader is really doing, is understanding the root cause, looking at different perspectives. Maybe the employee is struggling, right? Maybe they're struggling with burnout, or maybe they're struggling with unclear expectations. By listening, and responding thoughtfully, the leader can create trust. And that trust motivates employees to step up. Okay? This is the kind of leadership that builds loyalty and gets better long-term results. Now, we'll see this on a bigger scale as well. Satya Nadella uh, transformed Microsoft's culture by leading with empathy. So, what he did is he listened deeply to employees and to customers, and that became a catalyst for innovation and financial success, right? So, empathy isn't about avoiding tough decisions, it's about making better ones because you understand people's perspectives. Something that I say all the time with my clients is that your perspective is how you see things. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just the way that you see things. But someone else who has had different experiences in their life will see things a different way, might understand things a different way. It doesn't make them wrong, it doesn't make them right. It just makes it different. And so part of being an empathic leader is understanding that various perspectives are in play, to try to understand the various perspectives. Again, you might not agree, and that is okay. You don't have to agree with someone's perspective, but making the effort to try to understand where someone else is coming from, that's key. Okay. Okay. Now, empathy doesn't necessarily come natural for everyone for whatever reason, right? But the good news is that empathy isn't just a personality trait, it's a skill, which means that it can be learned. Again, some people are naturally empathic, right? It's just part of their DNA. And for others, it requires intentional practice. And that's okay. If we think of it like a muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it's going to get. Just like anything when we're talking about emotional intelligence, right? The more you use the muscle, the stronger it's going to get. The more we work at becoming more self-aware, the more aware we're going to become. The more we learn to manage our behaviors, the better we're going to become at managing our behaviors, right? The more we make efforts to be socially aware and manage relationships, the better we're going to become at that, right? So all of these things are skills that we can practice. That's the good news, right? So you can build empathy through small daily habits. Now, here's where you're going to want to get your pen out. Here's where you want to get your paper, or if you use your smartphone, whatever it is. But I'm going to give you some strategies here, right? One, active listening without interrupting. Okay. So, for example, when a team member is sharing a challenge, we can often want to jump in and give advice, right? We want to try and fix the issue, right? But instead, we want to nod, reflect back what they're saying, and ask them to tell us more about it. Okay. We want to have a full understanding. So we want to do the active listening without interrupting. Okay. Two, we want to ask curious, open-ended questions, which means that we're not going to ask questions that give us a one-word answer, like yes or no, right? So instead of asking, did you finish the project, right? Because that's going to elicit a yes or a no. We want to ask, what's been your biggest roadblock so far, right? Because what this is going to do is it invites conversation instead of the yes or no answers. It allows you to understand and learn more about what's going on. Okay. And the third thing is you want to imagine the world from someone else's perspective. Again, our perspective is just our perspective. It's how we see things. We want to try and see things from other people's viewpoint, right? So before giving feedback to a struggling employee, pause and think, what might they be feeling right now? What pressures? could they be under outside of work? Right? Just pausing and asking yourself those questions and thinking about it, those little practices can help to retrain your brain to pause, notice, and connect. Right? Over time, you'll find that your empathy muscle is growing stronger and that your relationships at work are transforming. Okay. So do some let's do some practicing. Okay. Let's make this really practical. Right. Here are 3 empathy power moves that you can use this week. All right. Pause. And that can be hard because life is so fast, right? But we need to pause and ask what might be true for them right now. Okay? Now, an interesting thing about truth, right? My truth isn't necessarily your truth. Your truth isn't necessarily my truth, right? We feel things. I did a post on this very, very recently where we can feel something and we might believe something to be a certain way. That doesn't make it fact. It doesn't make it true. And we need to understand that. At the same time, we want to make sure that we're understanding what's true for the other person, right? What is their truth? And that's the goal of this empathic leadership. We're trying to understand what their truth is so that we can come to some middle ground, right? So pause and ask what might be true for them right now. We use language like, I notice, or I wonder, so that we can explore without judgment, right? And we can end our meetings with, what's one thing I can do to support you? These small habits, they build connection and they build trust over time. So from these 3, what can you do this week? Throw it in the chat. Make yourself accountable to someone. What can you do? Are you going to pause and ask what might be true for them right now? Are you going to change language and use language like, I notice, I wonder, so that you're exploring without judgment? Or are you going to end your meetings with asking your team how you're able to support them? Or are you going to do all 3? It's all good if you do all 3, but commit to at least one thing that you're going to do intentionally this week when it comes to being more empathic. Okay. Let's do an activity. Okay. We're going to pause for a quick reflection. Right. Think of a recent moment when you judged someone quickly, maybe an employee or a peer. We have all done it. Okay, when we meet someone, within 7 seconds, our brain has made some categories and made some conclusions. It's our bias. We all do it. We all do it. If anyone ever tells you, I have no bias, they're lying. We all do it. Okay, so think of a moment when you judged someone quickly. Okay, what might have been going on in their world? Right, so you're going to challenge whatever thought that you had, whatever judgment you had, okay? What might have been going on for them in their world? What might have been going on? Okay? What pressures or values could have influenced their behavior? Just type a few words in the chat if you're joining live or jot it down if you're watching later, right? This perspective taking exercise is empathy in action. Okay. You're challenging ideas that you had about people. And that's important to be able to do, right? This reflection, it's not just an exercise. Again, it's that empathy in action. When you pause and you ask what might have been going on for them, you're stepping out of judgment and into understanding. You don't have to agree with their behavior, but you're training your brain to respond with curiosity instead of criticism. And that's what leaders who create trust and engagement do every single day, right? All right. So, some key takeaways from today, just to wrap up. Empathy is essential for modern leadership. It's not about being nice all the time. It's about understanding people so that you can lead more effectively. Okay. Empathy can be learned, it can be practiced, and it can be strengthened over time. And when you lead with empathy, you create the kind of workplace where people want to show up and they want to do their best work. So here's your challenge. What's one thing you'll do this week to lead with empathy? I gave you 6 different things that you could do, right? What is one thing that you're going to do this week to lead with empathy? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being here with us. Before you go, just want to share some upcoming. Our double takes are going all the way to September, y'all. All the way to September. So next week, Melissa Maloney will be back, and she's going to talk about saying it clearly, how to set expectations that actually stick, right? The week after, I'll be back to talk about confidence, right? Building it, showing it, owning it. And then Melissa will be back on August 19th, accountability without being the bad guy, right? So next week, please come back August 5th at noon for Say It Clearly, how to set expectations that actually stick. Thank you so much for participating. Before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with this. Leading with empathy isn't just about showing up for others. It's also about showing up for yourself, right? Here at AWL Partners, we're here to support you on your leadership journey in a way that's real, intentional, authentic, and actionable. Okay? If you're looking for a coach to help you grow as a leader and navigate challenges with confidence, we've got you. Okay, whether you're at the beginning of your leadership journey or you're in the C-suite, we have coaches to support you all the way, right? We've got executive coaches on our team. Or if you're feeling stuck and want to work through the things that are holding you back, our counselors are here to walk alongside you. You do not have to do this alone. So please visit us at awlpartners.com or send us a note at hello@awlpartners.com. And let's have the conversation about how we can support you and your team. Thank you so, so much for being with us again this week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.